good riddance to James Harden. I think that's why the 76ers made this trade. Robert Covington gets traded back to the 76ers, and this trade was not fair for the 76ers. I think the 76ers got robbed. But because James Harden has been such a cancer on and off the court, and during the offseason and the preseason, not showing up to practices, not showing up to preseason games, tells me really one thing about where the 76ers were going. And what does this tell me about Joel Embiid? Because Joel Embiid now sees that this team is moving backwards, not forward. What is it going to take for Joel Embiid to ask the 76ers to trade him soon? Because it doesn't make sense why he would want to stay there when they're not good enough to win. And I don't think the 76ers are as good as a roster without James Harden. Maxey looks pretty good this year now that he has become the second option. It was James Harden being the second option, but Tyrese Maxey, who I think is going to be a good player, we heard at the trade deadline last year that we're thinking about moving him. Who is going to be the starter at James Harden's position? Now, DeAnthony Melton is probably going to take that guard position over as the starter. Do you trust DeAnthony Melton to be that number 3, number 4 option? Probably not. And losing James Harden, you gave up Ben Simmons, you gave up some pieces for James Harden. Now, when you're looking at Nick Bantam, Marcus Morris, Kenyon Martin Jr., Robert Covington, are they better? That's the question. The Clippers, did they get better? I don't know, because we don't know what James Harden is going to show up. Now, Kawhi Leonard, Paul George, and James Harden, 3 good players. Now, veteran players, these guys are older players. Besides Kawhi Leonard, the other two has never won. You have a winning player that just came back last year, wasn't playing at a high level until the end of the season and couldn't stay healthy. Hopefully, he plays at the level that he was playing in Toronto when they won a championship and where he was playing in San Antonio. And then you have guys like James Harden, who's a cancer, Paul George, who can't stay healthy. Is this roster good enough to win in a conference that's so top-heavy? You lost Kawhi for 2 years. Gave him a contract. He was out for 2 years. He barely played last year.
3 out of the 4 years he's been hurt. Like, can you trust him?
Maybe he's at 100%. I would trust more of Kawhi Leonard playing at a top level than any one of these guys.
Oh, sure.
Because when he plays at a top level, he's one of the best defensive players at his position, if not the best. And he's one of the best offensive players, especially in the playoffs when you need a big shot. Look what he did with Toronto. He was the only reason why Toronto won that championship years ago. And Tyronn Lue, I understand that LeBron James and him won a championship in Cleveland. The only reason why Tyronn Lue won a championship was because of LeBron James. And that's the problem. James Harden, he is not a playoff player.
You better hope he's the 4th option in the playoff.
He's a regular season player that gives you all these points and all these rebounds and assists. He led the league in assists. He's a triple-double type of player at some points of his career. You look at what he does in the playoffs, he averages like 7 points less. He averages like 3 or 4 less rebounds in the playoffs. It's like 5 or 6 less assists than he does in the regular season.
I think the last 2 games against the Celtics, he had less than 20 points in the 2 games combined.
He's getting up there in age and making $35.6 million as a 3rd option, but he wanted to play in LA. He's very good friends with Kawhi. He was very good friends with Kevin Durant, Russell Westbrook, Chris Paul, Kyrie Irving before Kyrie Irving went crazy during COVID. You didn't have to give up much for him, but do you want him in your locker room? Do you want a cancer in your locker room that could screw up whatever you have there that's working? Chris Mannix reports that the 76ers are targeting Zach LaVine in a trade after trading James Harden. The 76ers have also expressed interest in 2 Raptors players, OG Anunoby and Pascal Siakam. Donovan Mitchell and Julius Randle have also been listed as potential options for the 76ers. Multiple sources believe that LaVine and DeMar DeRozan could be available early this season. They've been looking to move LaVine for the last 2 seasons. I believe that LaVine has been a problem in the locker room. He and Billy Donovan have not got along over the last 2.5 seasons, and I think he wants his way out. I think he doesn't fit this offense. I don't think he fits this team. Billy Donovan preaches defense, and Zach LaVine is not a defensive player. I do believe they see a future in Billy Donovan. I don't believe they see a future in DeMar DeRozan or Zach LaVine. They don't have a shot for Siakam. OG Anunoby, I could see that. And he was available last year. And I think at the trade deadline, both OG Anunoby will be available. I think LaVine will be available. I also believe DeMar DeRozan. I don't want DeMar DeRozan if I'm a Knick fan because he's not a good playoff player.
And he's a great shooter.
Regular season player. I just don't think he's a playoff player. He proved it in Toronto that he isn't. And the Knicks had a chance to bring him in after he left San Antonio. I'm not surprised Zach LaVine wants his way out of there. I think Zach wants to go to a team that fits his offense, his style of game. He goes over there to the 76ers. He's a James Harden type of player. I think he's an all-around better shooter than James Harden, but everything else, I think James Harden is a better player than he is. I think he's more explosive than James Harden is too. And younger. I could see the 76ers, if they want to keep Joel Embiid happy, they're going to try to make a move to bring in a player that can play beside him.